The bulk of my clients, roughly 90%, will be introduced to them by my boss. However, I am the one who has to deal with the nuts and bolts of the issue. It has indeed taken the fall. When things don't work out as planned, it's my turn to suffer. Most people have no idea how difficult it is to actually manage a business in this day and age, but you probably already knew that. Wayne Carini is, without a doubt, among the most recognizable brands in the car industry. Wayne is well known and esteemed in the industry, and he has maintained this reputation throughout his career. His commitment and skill in repair have brought him widespread renown. But even legendary figures faced challenges not long ago. Wayne was caught up in an unexpected court battle that shocked him and his devoted fans. Although his career is filled with inspiring tales of triumph and jaw-dropping restorations of classic automobiles, this case did shed light on some issues and conflicts within the automotive industry. We must discover the circumstances that enabled the illustrious Wayne Carini to achieve his level of accomplishment. Despite Wayne's reputation as an enthusiastic car restorer and TV personality, many of his fans didn't get acquainted with him until they watched his popular TV show, Chasing Classic Cars. Despite the show's focus on its plot, the scandal-free restoration and presentation of classic automobiles, it is impossible to state the same thing about Wayne's own businesses, F40 Motorsport and Carini Carrozzeria. For a number of years, Wayne's businesses were in the middle of lawsuits, which tarnished his reputation as a trustworthy car dealer. Robert Richmond, an antique car enthusiast from Australia, was interested in buying a 1934 Pierce Arrow coupe that he had seen in the US in 2010. The narrative gets a bit convoluted from there. Richmond recruited Gary Dixio, an American vehicle restorer he knew from his work life, to help him manage the deal and execute the trade. The strategy was straightforward. Gary would give the vehicle a once-over, buy it if it passed muster, fix it up, and then send it on its way to Richmond, Australia. Richmond paid the full asking price of $98,000 for the coupe all at once to get the deal done faster. Taking possession of the car was something they had hoped to accomplish within a few weeks, but it never happened. Even though Richmond paid for the 1934 vintage car, he was never able to get his hands on it. The deal's back and forth seems to have harmed their connection. Even though Richmond still owned the Pierce Arrow coupe when Gary filed for bankruptcy in 2016, the situation became even more complicated. Consequently, Richmond was let down and did not receive the vehicle for which he had paid in full. The car was sold by Gary the following year, in 2017, all without informing Richmond of the transfer. He eventually reached out to and signed a deal with Gowing Motors Inc., a company that focuses on the management of classic cars. One way Wayne Carini became involved was through the deal that Gary and Gowing made. Even though Wayne had no idea what Gary and Richmond had agreed upon, they yet asked him to do an examination anyhow. Upon learning that the individuals involved were prepared to sell the vintage car, Wayne conveyed his desire to acquire it. Wayne wanted to buy the coupe and estimated its value to be between $100,000 and $120,000. Following the sale of the vehicle to him by Gowing Motors for $110,000, Gary brought the certificate of ownership along to verify the legitimacy of the transaction. Wayne was subsequently presented with this certificate after it had been presented to Gowing. After this, Wayne felt at ease knowing he had done his homework and could move forward with his company. Not long after the purchase, RM Auctions Inc., now called RM Sotheby's, approached Wayne about selling the purchased car. Wayne knew the coupe would have been worth a lot more if he kept it, so he was reluctant to sell Jim. To get the auction car out of his hands, he even went as far as setting a high asking price of $250,000. But he was surprised when the company bought the car outright and quickly after accepting his offer, and eventually RM Auctions did what any other auction house would do: they opted to sell the item. The car has changed hands multiple times since then, and its market value has risen substantially. But the ownership dispute that had been brewing in court was about to surface. Despite the fact that these dealings transpired over a number of years, Richmond was left in the dark when he contacted Gary for help in shipping the Pierce Arrow to Australia. Interestingly, the court records show that he applied to the New Jersey Department of Motor Vehicles for the certificate of ownership, and he was approved to own the vehicle outright in his own name. Conversely, Richmond found out more information about his vehicle at an auction that was held by RM Auctions. After that, he set out to track down the car and get in touch with everyone who had a hand in selling it. After Richmond had spoken with the buyer who had bought the car from RM Auctions, the buyer agreed to return the car to the auction firm. Wayne and the other parties involved reached a consensus to provide a refund. However, Richmond was still unable in retrieving his automobile despite all efforts. According to the court filings, F40 Motorsports, which was also the title holder, was holding the vehicle. Richmond, finally sick of Wayne Carini's antics, sued him, his companies F40 Motorsports and Carini Carrozzeria, and Gullwing Motors in 2018 to reclaim his car. Wayne Carini and his businesses were relentlessly covered by the media throughout the 2-year court struggle. After having legal counsel on his side, Richmond went to court to assert his rightful ownership of the Pierce Arrow Coupe and to prevent its unauthorized sale. Opposition to the sale of the automobile was Richmond's main point. From the illegal sale of Gary to Gullwing Motors until the acquisition by Wayne Carini, the court deliberated over every point in transaction. We did not even bother to examine RM Auctions till the very end. The court's decision, which favored Richmond, was handed down a year later, in June of 2020. Also, the judge found that Gary Dixo had committed embezzlement and acted dishonestly by selling the car and putting the owner's faith in him without getting their approval. After Wayne Carini and everyone else involved in the deal were cleared of any wrongdoing, the court ruled that Richmond regain ownership of the car. The court also found that they behaved honestly, considering that they thought the sale was legitimate due to the paperwork that Gary had supplied, yet they still had to pay back the buyer of the car. This covered the expense of the customer's previous investment in the vehicle's rehabilitation. Because of the never-ending litigation, Wayne's reputation took a hit, and his company took a hit as well. In the trust-based car flipping industry, Wayne encountered a stumbling block in the form of the scandal, yet this was far from Carini's first brush with controversy. Reportedly, Joe 3112D, an unhappy client, sued Wayne and his business, F40 Motorsports, in 2011 over a 2007 Lamborghini Gallardo. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the car's specs or performance, but it was first promoted with a deluxe luggage package, a premium item worth $8,000 instead. The buyer put their trust in the ad and Wayne's reputation after the sale was finalized, and the car was delivered to them. Despite the Lamborghini Gallardo's allure, the client did not receive the advertised luxury package when they bought the car. Confidently assuring the customer that the issue would be resolved soon, F40 Motorsports responded to their inquiry over the missing luggage. Wayne and his salesman Mike Roberts had agreed upon terms about the order, but they were never fulfilled. The consumer escalated to the point of taking legal action after weeks of unanswered emails and texts. Nonetheless, Wayne and his salesman continued to ignore the customer even after receiving legal notice. The fact that nobody from the team addressed the client's complaints only made matters worse. He said that Wayne lacked the guts to tackle the many problems right away, and that F40 Motorsports was a complete and utter hoax. The customer decided to sue Wayne and F40 Motorsports after 2 months of disrespectful treatment. This choice was reached following consultation with his legal counsel. The customer provided an original ad copy that prominently featured the premium package. Unfortunately, the ad had vanished from the web for reasons that were known only to Wayne and his team. This information was mentioned by the client in the court documents. Even though the lawsuit was settled out of court, the client informed the public on Lamborghini Talk, a social network for Lamborghini enthusiasts. After F40 Motorsports got the lawsuit, Joe 3112D said on the page that he finally heard back from Wayne via email. To our knowledge, this had never happened before. The prior owner of the Gallardo found the premium package Wayne revealed in the email. The customer was notified via email that the goods would be supplied to them via FedEx 1 week later. F40 Motorsports had previously refused to make the vehicle's spare key accessible to the public, but now it was part of the deal. According to the client, the issue should not have lingered for so long if Wayne and his crew had just done what was required. The spare Lamborghini key seems to have been his motivation for parting with the premium bundle. Although the salesperson was correct in saying that the automobile did not come with 2 keys, the luxury package was not included in the sale. Despite the lengthy time it took and the need for legal counsel to resolve the matter, the customer eventually received his item and continued with his life.